Hi, this is Joe Rabil from Rabil Stock Research with your Daily 5 today. Recently, I've been receiving lots of questions about energy stocks, so I thought it would be worthwhile to give a rundown of what I'm seeing overall and then show some stocks that are looking attractive in the energy space. Now, energy, obviously, there's different ways to look at energy, but for what I'm doing today, I'm focusing just on the pure energy stocks. I'm not looking at alternative energy. However, it's worthwhile going through those as well. I would suggest, especially some of the solar stocks starting to show some signs of life, but I didn't include that in today's review just because I wanted to stick with the pure energy sector. So let's go ahead and get into this daily 5. Now, I'm going to start with the light crude chart, and I want to just go through this in multiple time frames, give you a kind of a feel for what I'm seeing, and then I'm going to pick out 5 of these. I've got 12 stocks that I kind of narrowed down, so if you want to go through the others that I don't go through, feel free. These are ones that I all thought looked pretty attractive in the energy space. But I had to stick to actually four individual stocks. So let's start with this light crude though. So I want to look at the monthly chart and show what has sort of taken place here. We had this big drop when the market plummeted back in 2020, and we had a reversal off that low, made a higher bottom, and then started to really trend once this got through this key level here on this continuous contract in the mid 40s. Once that happened, if you notice, this was a low here, pretty critical low, another critical low at this level, and they kind of overrun here, but generally speaking, you know, low to mid 40s, and then another one here. So once we got through that, after failing, I thought that was pretty important, and it's just kind of taken off from there. And then the next target area was this prior high, which is up in the mid to high 70s. We paused here, and then now we've taken that out. So now you have to start thinking based on the momentum conditions, which I think look pretty good, and I'll go into that on the weekly chart, and getting through this key level, that the bias is still to the upside. I would expect some type of a consolidation to take place. I wouldn't be looking for a move all the way from 80 to 100 without, you know, any hesitation along the way, and wouldn't be surprised based on the recent run if we don't take a breather. But let's go ahead and look at this weekly now, because one of the key things that I think you want to keep in mind is when the bigger time frame is taking out key levels, you want to look at the momentum condition on the lower time frame, in this case the weekly chart. And if we see what took place, look at this ADX reading that showed during that big phase to the upside. So we had a big run and then a pullback and another run and then another pullback. And when I see this big ADX reading like this, that's telling me that you should expect continuation to the upside at some point. Now, sometimes you go through a longer consolidation phase, but the bias is to the upside when this ADX is this strong. Now, if we go up and like we're doing right now, we move up and pull back and go up another time, and this ADX can't get above 25, then that would give me some sign that maybe this trend is starting to peter out. But I think it's way too early. And if you notice, green DI, which is the strength of the buyers, has already started to come back, and it's back above 31 here. So I view that to be pretty encouraging. The other thing that I would tell you, just to pinpoint here, when we pulled back to this support area in the low to mid 60s, notice how we made a higher low on the price chart and we made a lower low on the MACD. So anyone who watches my show, Stock Talk, comes out on Thursdays, you'd know that this pattern is a reverse divergence pattern. I like to look for it in conjunction with the MACD. I mean, you can do it with other indicators, but I really like it when the MACD does this. It sort of acts as sort of like a slingshot almost, where the MACD is getting closer to oversold or neutral, and price isn't pulling back as much. And I love it when it happens right around the 40 MA. So that's what we had here, and we've had a pretty strong move to new highs. So if we look at the daily chart, we had this nice break of the downtrend line and then pulled back, and then we've taken off from this low 70 area. We had a pinch here on the MACD after crossing the zero line, and we've had nice strength to the upside. So the fact that we've broken out, I think, is a very good sign on the bigger picture. On the shorter term time frame, we're already getting a little mature in the short term. I think we're getting a little overbought. So I think it's worthwhile to start gathering the stocks that have good overall trend patterns on their longer term charts, and then look for pullbacks over the course of the next week or two. So that's how I would be looking at this right now. It's short term, a little overbought. I think a premium entry, a more wholesale entry would be closer to the 18 MA on the daily. We've got pretty good momentum conditions across the board, but I just wanted to make sure I got that covered. So bigger picture looks good. There's probably some upside continuation based on the momentum conditions we've got in the breakout through 80. But in the near term, it would be healthy if we paused here a little bit. It doesn't have to be a big pullback. But if we work off the overbought condition by going sideways, I think that would be pretty healthy. Okay, let's go ahead and look at some of your, let's go on to some individual stocks. So I had been looking at this Hess stock for quite a while, because when energy really got cracked in 2020, notice how limited the downside was in Hess. I mean, yeah, it undercut these lows, but it was not for very long, and it got back above very quickly, came back and tested this key area, and then turned back to the upside. So it was really one of the stronger patterns overall. And then we can go and look at the size of this base. I would view this as a big base right here. And through this whole period, we've had low 80X. It's still low 80X. However, if you notice, we've got green DI starting to break out. For the first time in years, we're showing some real strength in the buyers on the monthly chart. One of the things that this is sort of a recurring theme as I went through a number of energy stocks, and that is low 80X on the monthly chart, and then on the weekly chart, we had strong 80X to the upside. So through this run here, this powerful move to the upside, and I think it was powerful based on the strength of the 80X. Now, yeah, when the stock pulled back, so did the 80X. But really, we're looking at the last peak in conjunction with price to determine how strong the trend is. And during the pullback phase, we actually want weak ADX. We want the ADX to go low. That shows that the sellers aren't that strong. So that's what's taking place here. And if you notice, in fact, let me just show this again. Notice the volume bubbling up. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row where the volume showed green, showing the open was above the close for the week. Pretty good volume, greater than normal for about 4 or 5 weeks there. And nice run to the upside. I think we need to pause here and consolidate a little bit in the near term after testing this high. But there should be a lot of support down in the low 80s. Okay, let's go on to Canadian natural resources. So same idea here. We had a nice breakout through this area in the mid to high 30s. Green DI showing up on the monthly, nice ADX pattern on the monthly. We had the same type of pattern with ADX being strong on the weekly. And we did have, in this case, another reverse divergence pattern take place. And that sort of was the kickoff move. Now we have strong ADX on the daily chart, so let's look for a pullback a little closer to this breakout area. It doesn't have to come all the way back, but look for the overbought condition to be worked off a little bit before going nuts here and just chasing. I don't like to buy stocks like chasing them. I mean, obviously the optimum entry was down around 36, 37. Let's look for the next entry point on some kind of a pullback. Let's go to Northern Oil and Gas. So this is different. I wanted to show a couple different patterns. So the first two were strong patterns breaking out of a sideways consolidation, kind of held up really well. Now let's look at something like Northern Oil and Gas, which had been in a major downtrend, trying to turn things around here. And now we have a rising 18-month. And we had this delayed ending bottom where we took out this low from 2017 in 2020 and then quickly moved back above it. And now we're starting to see signs of green DI kicking in. So I think this is pretty important to recognize. So green DI came up and held the 25 area. It got down a little bit below it and then turned up. So we had a higher bottom form on green DI. Go back and look at this. We haven't had this happen for a very, very long time. Certainly not since the decline started. We have not had the green DI on the monthly chart in this position. So this looks like a big turnaround to me and something that is pretty interesting. Again, on the weekly chart, good strength. Let's look for some kind of a little dip, pullback, pause, somewhere a little closer to 22.5, maybe something like that. But if you're looking at the bigger picture, this is certainly something that you could play. And if you want to go ahead and get involved in these, you could take a half position and then look to maybe add to it if we get a little bit better price pullback. Let's go on to our last stock today, and that is HollyFrontier HFC. So I wanted to bring this up because, again, this is a little bit different than the first two. This is a break of trend line to the downside, and now the 18-month is turning around for the first time in a few years. We held it on the pullback. We've got a pinch that developed on the monthly chart after breaking the downtrend line. So you break the trend line, you come back and test, and now we're turning back to the upside. So we've got the makings of a turnaround developing on the monthly chart. And then if we go and look at the weekly, we had enough strength to get this ADX moving to the upside. And now we've had a nice correction phase, holding support in the low 30s and now turning back up. ADX is improving on the daily chart. We want to watch for some kind of a pause or pullback into the mid 30s. Or if it pauses here and then wants to break out through this key area at 37, that could be another way to play this. I just like to see a minor pause in the near term. So pretty attractive. And again, feel free to go through and take a look at some of these other stocks, some similar type patterns developing in these as well. So that's it for your Daily 5. I hope you enjoyed this segment. You can contact me through LinkedIn or find my research on rabilstockresearch.com. In addition, if you'd like to learn more about trend, MACD, and ADX in multiple time frames, I have a YouTube channel and a book called Invest Like a Pro, which delves into this subject. Have a great trading day, and I will see you next time.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.